You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Happy Friday to you, everybody. It's Ken Reed, your TV guidance counselor, with a surprise, very special 0.5 half edition of TV guidance counselor. Once again, I have a musician and a great musician on the show. So since it's December, all the holidays, we're in the midst of Hanukkah, I thought I would give a gift to you, an extra edition of TV guidance counselor, and that's why we have today's episode. My guest today is the fantastic, fascinating, entertaining musician, motivational speaker, and all-around personality, Mr. Andrew WK. He was in town recently and was nice enough to sit down and talk to me after a show, which is difficult for musicians. He put on a hell of a show of dancing, screaming, and rock and rolling. And I'm sorry I said rock and rolling, but it just seemed appropriate for about an hour before we recorded, and still managed to chat with me. So I very much appreciate him talking to me. He is an incredibly polite, fascinating, and gracious man. So thanks to him for sitting down and talking about old TV. If you've never listened to the show before and you are checking it out just because you are a fan of Andrew WK's, thank you so much. My name is Ken Reed. I am a stand-up comedian based out of Boston. I am also I don't want to say musician, but I was formerly in a punk rock band in the 90s here in Boston called 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. So I have a lot of musical connections as well. And normally I have sort of actors and comedians on the show, but it is always interesting when I'm able to get a musician or someone who's just interesting, an author, a comic book artist, anything like that. And today is no exception. The way the show normally works is someone picks a TV guide from my vast collection of TV guides. We kind of flip through and we talk about what they would watch that week. That's basically what we do with Andrew here. I gave him a stack of TV guides from sort of the mid to late 80s, based on his approximate age. We're about the same age. And we sat down and we chatted about old TV, and we got quite a few surprises along the way. Things I wouldn't have guessed about Andrew, but he's a surprising guy. And in the show earlier that evening said one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life, which was, I'm going to party this keyboard into submission, which was perfect. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy today's special bonus episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, the one and only Mr. Andrew WK.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
And my guest today, Mr. Andrew WK. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, very happy to be here. Thank you for having me on this program. I look forward to your guidance.
Thank you. I inadvertently rhymed the intro as well with Day and K.
Wow, and I didn't even notice that because it was so elegant and so graceful and so subtle.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So I really wanted to talk to you about what you watched on TV and kind of what sort of formed the man that is Andrew WK as far as pop culture goes, because you've been on all the VH1 sort of talking head commentary shows, and I always enjoyed you on those. And the first time I ever heard your music was on TV. We were talking a little bit before when I lived in the UK in 2001. I think "Party Hard" was a hit single in the UK first, and you were on Top of the Pops.
Yes, and for listeners who may not be familiar with Top of the Pops, it actually was a fantastic format that the UK specialized in to a degree. In other European countries, Germany had their fair share of these music shows.
Where Music Loudon was the one.
Yeah, Music Loudon, which is fantastic. But then Old Grey Whistle Test.
Yep.
It was basically like the musical performance that you'd have on David Letterman or Saturday Night Live, but the whole show was just those.
Yeah.
Right? And most of the great VHS tapes of favorite bands that fans would trade, where if you wanted to see as many rare recordings live on TV of some random band, it would always be Top of the Pops performances. And many of them were lip synced, or a combination of real and lip sync, but there was just something very unique about the production. There was, even when it was completely canned, there was this incredible intimacy and vulnerability that was unique, different than a live concert, different than recording footage, different than the band maybe hanging out,
right,
playing backstage or something. It was just, it's a unique thing, and it's very sad that it doesn't exist. But that, getting to play on Top of the Pops was even at that early stage for me, already career high point.
Because that was before I Get What came out, right? Wasn't it just like a single before it was the album?
Gosh, it was all I think it was actually. It may have been a few weeks before the release of the album.
Because I remember being like, who's this American guy that's doing well in England? Because it was unusual to see like American acts that weren't already huge acts here over there on stuff. So I remember I specifically like really stuck out to me, and it was a great song as well. So you alluded to sort of getting tapes of bands you like. You grew up in Ann Arbor?
Yes, grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, southeast Michigan. It's about 45 minutes outside of Detroit.
MC5 country.
Yes, Bob Seger is from Ann Arbor.
And so were you
Iggy
trading?
Pop from Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti. It's a great area.
It's a big music town. So were you trading tapes of stuff like when you were growing up? Like would you see because I remember I would get stuff like Killing Joke on Music a lot and like these things from like they let these bands on TV?
Yeah, I had a lot of friends who were a little bit older in high school or who had even graduated high school that were archivists, that were just experts, collectors, mavens, people that I could go to introduce me to the world at large.
Right.
So they would send me home with a bag full of tapes.
Homework.
Yeah, records, CDs, albums, whatever. And I could just spend hours. But even at that time, too, and this is what was, thinking back, I was trading VHS tapes with people through the mail who I didn't even know. And I don't even remember how I got in touch with them.
I used to do that as well. Like Maximum Rock and Roll was a big thing for me. I would go into the one ads, or even like Fangoria magazine had like the one ads that was like tape trading, and you would you'd have two VCRs and you could get all kinds of things. In the pre sort of internet age, it was like an analog YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very enjoyable. And those memories are still very fresh. I don't even think of them as memories. It's like a song. You know, some of these visuals are so striking and they were so life-changing and elemental that they are sort of like a song. You don't sort of think back to a song that you love. I mean, especially a song that's perpetual, let's say like Happy Birthday.
Right. I
don't think back to, oh yeah, Happy Birthday, that song. It's just
good times with Happy Birthday.
It's always there.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about a lot of those striking visuals or exposures to culture in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I are roughly the same age, and we kind of came of age in this time when music became much more visual across the board.
Yeah,
and sort of 70s bands could freely move about without being recognized because maybe their album had a picture of one of them on it, and that was about all people could see. But with the MTV age, which everyone complained about at the time, but now I kind of look back on fondly and miss things like 120 Minutes and that stuff, or seeing, Roxy music on Music Loud and footage that would show up every now and then.
That's great footage, too.
Yeah.
That was all 100% live.
Because that song is weird, but then you look at them and you're like, this band is crazy.
And they are a great example of a band who had a very powerful visual element from the get-go.
Right.
They wanted to be seen. They put plenty of photos of themselves on their albums, put great care into crafting that image, so they couldn't wait for TV.
Yeah,
they would have wanted much more things like MTV. Those kind of bands really helped give reason for there to be any visual element attached to music at all. And that's when you sort of realized too that I would say music especially, but maybe just all entertainment, there's room for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it all. Let's say your film, for me, for example, I've liked just about every part of the living arts or whatever you want to call it. But with music, you can do it all. If you are a musician, but you also like film, well, you get to make a music video.
Right.
If you're a musician, but you also like fashion, well, you can design your outfit. If you're a musician, but you also like painting, you can paint your album cover or backdrop on stage or any number of other things. Dance, anything. I mean, it all counts.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing. It's not even that you can squeeze it in there. There's actually a need for it.
Yeah. It's not even like I'm doing music so I can paint. It's just an excuse.
Right. It actually is useful.
Yeah.
So to me, in the end, that was like why this was the ultimate, I guess, discipline, because you could do anything.
Yeah.
And it all amounted and added to it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, seeing you on Top of the Pops, and then then you're hosting a show on the Cartoon Network, or like discussing 1990 and all this stuff. It's seems odd when you look at the things isolated, but it makes perfect sense if you think of your, what you just stated, like kind of your philosophy of it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be able to do all those different kinds of things. My dream early on definitely was to be able to participate in that, that very mainstream type of culture that TV specializes in.
Yeah.
It's very accessible. It's very instantaneous. It's, in a way, very disposable, but very powerful.
Yeah.
And I like how quickly it goes by, but how long it can last if it means something to you.
Yeah, and I mean, so I applied you with a stack of TV guides there from about 88 to 90 that were sort of the age, I guess, that you probably watched the most TV. But that's a great transition in that I think in the sort of internet age now where people can watch anything at any time from any time, people don't value what they see as much because it's not fleeting. So I feel like people sort of our age and older, when you did watch something, you kind of had to go out of your way to find it, or you had to copy a tape in order to get it. And so you tend to remember those things a little bit more because you kind of had to work for it.
That's a very good point. Yeah, absolutely. I want to point out first and foremost, because I do think this informs a great deal of what I'll have to offer, if anything. I never had cable.
Okay.
My parents, I guess my mom specifically, I don't want to say she was against it.
Right.
It just was not provided for us the same way she didn't provide us with certain types of cereal.
Right.
Or certain types of, we didn't have video games either.
Right. It's not nutritious, whether it's,
I don't
for
really
the brain
know.
or the body.
It wasn't even discussed that much. It just wasn't there.
Right.
But of course, all my friends had it.
Yeah.
And when I went and babysat for kids, like they had it, or my family, other family members, they would have had it. So I definitely was exposed to it. And in kind of keeping with what you're saying, then it was even more special.
Yeah. You binged when you got access to it. Yeah.
And occasionally going to a hotel or something, to me, going on vacation, the most exciting thing was being able to watch cable in the room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember we went on vacation. I was like, this hotel has the Sci-Fi Channel?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to watch Monsters all day.
Oh, that was a great show.
Oh, I loved Monsters. It was a little more comedic than Tales from the Dark Side. But so the first one there, it's a Miami Vice cover, which is ubiquitous of the 80s, of course.
So I never really understood what Miami Vice was about. It was just obviously more adult than I was able to probably process or was really interested in. I do remember liking the logo.
Yeah.
And liking the sensibility of some of the style. But it seemed, it was sort of a love-hate feeling because part of it made me also feel very, very empty. There was, when you get exposed to this version of the adult world, you think this is what it's all leading to. Like this is
where I'm going. I'm going to be Crockett.
What all the effort is to somehow participate. Just that kind of fascination. Even as I noticed a lot of these, I think maybe every single one of the TV guides here has a cigarette ad.
Oh yeah, many cigarette ads. Yeah,
and
Virginia Slims.
Yeah, just what is this adult world of cigarettes and these people who smoke them? And now my dad smoked cigarettes, so it wasn't something unfamiliar. It's hard to explain, but the world of adults seeming so separate, and not necessarily very appealing, a bit frightening, not in a menacing way, but again maybe in a kind of a sad way somehow.
Yeah, and it's sort of a Peter Pan kind of way. Like it doesn't, you're not in a hurry to grow up and be a part of that, and also it seems so not pedestrian, but not. If you have big dreams of things that can happen and you go, oh, and then it's just kind of this.
Exactly. Yeah. That I think that's the best way to say it. Because I actually couldn't wait to become an adult in terms of having the power to finally do the things that I wanted to do. That was my biggest frustration. I actually really did not like childhood in terms of the limitations.
Right.
That anything I did, I felt didn't count. Because even if it counted in some way, it was still just something a kid did.
Yeah, isn't that cute?
Yeah, I wasn't a person yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was a kid. So that is true. And there's that great Bruce Willis movie, The Kid, where his childhood self is just horrified that out of all the things he could have done, he grew up and did what he ended
most
up doing.
mundane.
Yeah, just didn't even have a dog.
Yeah.
I don't even have a dog. I wanted to grow up and do the coolest things I could possibly imagine doing, which to a large degree is sort of what I've been able to do, but it also things like my dream was always to build an amusement park,
right?
Or build my own pinball machine,
right?
Or create a circus or something. So I think these types of adults and these TV guys are all very adult like that.
And also, did you see television, maybe not consciously as a kid, but as sort of like such a passive entertainment that you're just like, instead of going out and making something, they're just kind of unwinding and coming home from a 9-to-5 office job and just seeing the world that way?
I don't know, because I definitely liked a lot of shows.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite shows?
Okay, so the shows I watched the most, now we also had strict limits on when we could watch TV.
Okay. Like homework has to be done only between these hours?
Yep. So I think we usually, if we did watch during the week, it was for maybe about an hour right before dinner, and that was usually, Star Trek was usually on.
Okay. 60s classic Star Trek?
Oh, and then also some Next Generation. I remember, getting called in to dinner many times while Star Trek was still playing and being perfectly fine leaving it in the middle of the
episode. You weren't like, but I won't know.
I could never understand what was going on at all. And then I started to get the sense that maybe I wasn't supposed to understand.
Okay.
They would describe these technical terms. And now looking back, I think it was meant to be rather...
It's just pseudoscience nonsense. Yeah.
But I was very confused at the time. I also thought Happy Days was actually filmed in the 1950s.
Okay, it's a documentary?
Not as a documentary, but I just thought it was an old show in the 50s. It was only until literally maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I finally realized that wasn't...
Well, sense of time is very different when you're a kid, too, because if anything before you were born seems like forever ago.
Right. It's all just part of this era that is...
like 1970, World War II. Yeah, they're pretty much the same time here. And my favorite thing about Happy Days is when they kind of just stopped pretending it was in the 50s after like season 4. They're like, it's basically just the 70s. No one cares anymore.
That's true. The style, some of the clothes did start to get a bit mixed, I guess.
Well, they went from it being shot on film to like shot on tape, and they're just like, no, they're going to watch it regardless. Doesn't matter. So did you have a show that was like your appointment television where you had, like, you couldn't miss it, and like you would, if you got called away for dinner, you would just be like, no.
Well, I really, here's all the shows that I watched that I really, really, really liked a lot. I liked, Price is Right.
Okay, so the game show stuff?
Yeah, Price is Right a great deal. Wheel of Fortune to a slightly lesser extent.
Both shows still on. Do you ever watch them today?
Yeah, and especially really like that Pat Sajak is still doing Wheel of Fortune and Vanna White. I mean, it's incredible. It's really remarkable. And they look, for all practical purposes, identical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really a testament to how your body in show business, if you have some standard to maintain, it's almost as though your body wills itself to maintain it.
Yeah, well, they also have a steady job. I think so many people in show business are like, I gotta do this so that I can get my next job, but they're like content.
And they're so good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, Pat Sajak's, his tone it's incredible. So I really enjoy that. I still love watching that. And then I watched Little House on the Prairie a lot. And then summer, that was a block. It would go from Little House on the Prairie to Price is Right, or maybe the other order.
Yeah.
It would come from swim practice. In the summer, we had more flexibility with TV. And I remember many days, this specific, very type of summer experience of the most beautiful sunny day outside, my dad doing yard work, really resentful of me not being out there helping him.
Watching Little House.
And me watching Little House on the Prairie and Price is Right, and then going into these sort of daytime blocks of horror movies in the living room, so drenched with sun that you could barely see the TV.
Oh, yeah.
And just committing to sitting on that couch and not doing anything.
Yeah. It's like, if I have to watch this like it's a radio play, I will watch it like it's a radio play.
There's really, So that was always enjoyable. Then I liked Silver Spoons. I really liked Facts of Life. I really liked Different Strokes. I liked Good Times.
So you were an NBC sitcom kid.
See, I wouldn't even have known that those were from that, but
yeah,
I liked that mood a great deal.
So the sort of, although those shows did have some pretty heavy episodes.
Definitely,
I mean, Facts of Life. Yeah,
and Different Strokes.
Yeah, Different Strokes, and Silver Spoons even had like teen pregnancy episodes and all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, there was
heavy.
One episode I remember of Facts of Life in particular, I really liked when they opened that store.
Over Our Heads.
Yes, over
George
our heads.
Clooney. Last 3 seasons, they're my favorite.
That funky objects. I was into collecting, I don't know if that's even what you'd call collecting, but those kind of odd furnishings and gewgaws.
Glass
and
bricks and
things that don't do anything.
mid-century kind of looking things.
Yeah, like a rubber hand. And Of course, I like Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Which had a very similar aesthetic to the Over Our Head store.
Yes. So that was probably one of my main, and to this day remains one of my favorite. I don't know how you sum that up, what that really is.
It was sort of, there was a weird mid-'80s aesthetic that was very influenced by this. There was a design company called the Memphis Designs.
Yes, I'm very familiar with them.
And also the
Beetlejuice, of course.
Beetlejuice, yeah. Gary Panter's kind of stuff was all very influential on kids shows, which is weird. This like underground punk artist.
Yeah, of course, he's amazing. I was fortunate enough to communicate with him for a brief time through the mail, and he even illustrated some of the letters.
Oh, wow.
He's just one of the best. Jimbo.
Was this before you were doing music or like as a fan?
This was sort of maybe, I don't know, well, gosh, at this point, maybe 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
He's a teacher. I believe he's still teaching.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's his aesthetic, and then there's this sort of toy, like pointless objects. That's what I always really liked. Things, and once it sort of had a use, I found it a lot less interesting. I liked the idea that it's there
existed.
To be there. Yeah, it just existed. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't really a game. It just was a thing.
We were also the first generation to get that trash culture of the previous 3 decades sort of blended up and given to us in a sort of retro nostalgic way without us really knowing that's quite what it was.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of the 50s sensibility or that style, I didn't know that was supposed to be 50s.
Yeah.
It just looked cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It always was.
And we're getting it in cartoons, and we're getting it in this, and so it just kind of made sense. It made perfect. Do you ever revisit any of those shows now?
Whenever I possibly see them. I liked Golden Girls a lot.
Okay.
That's definitely on quite a bit still.
And that holds up. That show holds up.
I mean,
it's a well-written show.
The performances are just fantastic. It's a really good rhythm to it. What else? I liked Murder, She Wrote a lot. These were shows also that my parents would watch. 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed a great deal. I liked how heavy it was.
See, that freaked me out. Like my parents had basically no rules. The only show I wasn't allowed to watch was 2020. Yeah, because I would be freaked because on Saturday morning I'd be like, you guys can't go to the beach. There's medical waste there.
Yeah,
and they'd be like, you're not
heavy.
watching 2020 anymore.
Crisis kinds of stories.
Oh, yeah.
And those close-ups, those intense close-ups, the great... they're not necessarily reporters, but the anchors that would present the magazine style shows.
Oh, yeah.
Had such a great severity to their voice, and the editing, and those were really artfully done. It still is. And Andy Rooney, I really enjoyed. I'd never really seen someone sort of turn complaining into
an art form.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And he would even say stuff that I would disagree with, and I'd say I can't deny it. He changed the way I looked at public sculpture.
Really?
Forever, yeah. He had one bit about, do we really need a big piece of metal in the middle of the sidewalk that they spent $300,000 commissioning? I was like, wow, I always thought I was supposed to think that this was such a noble and important piece of the city experience, and you get to encounter this, and it gives you a different feeling. But no, maybe it's just a huge waste of space and money.
And this is as a kid you're thinking this, watching Andy Rooney.
Yeah, everything about that show was intense. Because at that point, too, you don't have your identity so bound up in opinions.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just taking in everyone else's. I never really identified with a position.
Yeah.
Or a belief. It was more just what I liked or what appealed to me.
Right. And then you figure out why later.
Yeah, possibly so.
Is there anything you watch now?
Well, as you said, now everything's this on demand, so I've enjoyed a lot of the popular new shows.
Yeah. Marathon and stuff like Daredevil and the Netflix kind of stuff, or
I haven't seen Daredevil, although Blake's a massive, massive fan of Daredevil. I think he thinks it's, my friend Blake over there, it's probably the best show that's ever been made.
Wow.
But he doesn't like The Flash, which is...
See, I really like The Flash, but are you... some people are just have diehard Marvel and DC allegiances their whole life, regardless of what happens.
He's not a big DC fan.
Yeah, well, some of us are ignorant. I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. It's actually the exact opposite of what I just said. Anyway, I also really like The Wire, of course. I liked Deadwood.
Right, that heavy stuff.
House of Cards, and I mean, I've seen pretty much all that stuff and thought it was good. There have been times when began to question whether this was a good use of time.
Right.
But you can always find something to appreciate. the performances, the effort that these actors are putting into it, the scale of the production. It's changed such a great deal. These are movies at this point.
Oh yeah, there's almost no difference between movie and television, which was such a huge difference, for years. And then I know to wrap it up so that you can recharge, because you guys just put on quite a show. I always ask musicians what your favorite TV theme song is.
Well, I really like House on the Prairie, both the opening theme and the ending theme.
Both instrumental, right?
Both instrumental, yeah. The let's see, how's it go? Oh, really fantastic.
Yeah, it's like a Scott Joplin kind of song or something. Is that what I'm thinking of?
It was quite spirited.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to necessarily be attempting to have anything to do with that period.
Yeah.
But that was just, I think that's such a great show.
Because
I remembered, I watched a lot of Three's Company.
Okay, yeah.
And just Don Knotts. I was particularly sort of frightened of him in a way.
Well, he's weird looking. He was always freaking out about something.
Yeah, look, that perpetual look of just shock.
And they wrote him as a horn dog too.
Jack.
So he was always like, "I'm gonna get some ladies," and you're like, "I don't like this. This is very uncomfortable."
He just had such great moves, though. That when you're in your prime like me, Jack, you wouldn't know anything about that.
Kids fear a man in a kerchief. I will say that. A neckerchief, jumpsuits and neckerchiefs are not a good look to make kids comfortable.
And I was absolutely blown away, and still am, by John Ritter's physical comedy.
Oh yeah,
it's really him and Michael Richards. I don't really know anyone else that I got to watch that regularly.
Right.
That had, I guess, Dick Van Dyke, of course, but.
But he came from a classical world of where that was a standard kind of comedy, and by the time the 80s came around, that was not really common anymore. So those guys were kind of doing an older form of stuff, so it stood out.
I don't know how they do that without suffering injury.
Well, sometimes you end up like Chevy Chase and becoming addicted to back pills because you hurt yourself so bad in the first year of Saturday Night Live doing pratfalls.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Let me just
Have you ever wanted to write a theme song for a show?
I tried actually, and was fortunate enough in a way to not have them used.
Okay.
So I used elements of them for some of my own songs, which I ended up being very happy about because I liked the theme so much. That's always the good thing. If you're commissioned to write something, always try to make it the best you can, because the worst case is if they don't use it, then you got a great song that you can use.
And it inspired you that may not have happened before otherwise.
That's true. Yeah, you're writing in a way that you probably wouldn't have normally written. I also really liked, of course, the Price is Right theme. I think the Murder, She Wrote theme is really great.
All instrumental stuff.
Yeah, really, really great melodies. Very classical. Meaning they're really locked. It's sort of like Baroque.
Right. But that makes sense because you're trained from a young kid to sort of recognize that stuff, right? Weren't you taking piano lessons and stuff?
That's true, yeah. I mean, before I'd ever heard rock music or really got into even songs so much, besides maybe nursery rhyme type songs, we were just learning music as notes and rhythm.
Yeah. So it makes sense that was what you gravitated towards on TV as a kid.
And definitely watched cartoons. Definitely watched those early morning cartoons. I was especially struck by later on when my younger brother, who was about 4.5 years younger than I am, he got into Animaniacs, and that's
a great show.
That was, I imagine it's not underrated, but I think it seems that it's a bit
It's underrepresented in kids now. Yeah, it doesn't get rerun forever like Looney Tunes does and stuff. And Animaniacs was really smart and
very ahead of its time.
Really musical too. I mean, that show had some really complicated music jokes.
Very ornate, very lavish, very layered, very adult. I mean, there would be 10 jokes in one joke.
Yeah,
for 10 different people that might get the references.
Yeah,
they were definitely aiming extraordinarily high, probably for their own amusement.
Yeah. They were trying to make something that they would want to watch.
Yeah, and they succeeded.
The best things, I think, especially things that end up being kids shows, and this goes for Pee-wee's Playhouse or anything like that, are shows that don't go, we're making a kids show. It's people that go, we're making a good show and kids will like it.
Yeah, for sure. That probably goes for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a target, the target should be quality.
Yeah, not the audience. Because
Yeah.
once you try to tailor it for a specific audience, it tends to be obvious that that's what you've done.
And I watched a lot of Sesame Street, a lot of Mr. Rogers.
Who is your favorite Sesame Street character? This is always telling for people, not to put the pressure on you.
I don't know that I ever thought about having a favorite character. I liked, probably as far as the humans went, Maria.
Oh, yeah.
Not only because she was so beautiful, but I really was fascinated by how she played Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah. She wrote on the show.
She did.
She was a writer as well on the show, which a lot of people don't know, which
did
is
not
kind of
know that.
fascinating. Yeah, she just put out a great book actually about it. That's pretty good.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
All those people, they made the biggest impact for some reason.
Yeah, the human characters, and like when Mr. Hooper died was such a huge deal for kids in our
course.
generation. That was like the first disaster people remember.
And
I
how
always
bold that they covered that.
Oh yeah, and handled it very well. And I will say that nobody likes Telly.
I don't have a problem with him. He's sort of like a no man's land character, like in between. He's not one thing or the other.
People go, "Hey, Telly," and you go, "Oh yeah, Telly." That's about all you get for him.
I liked him just fine.
Yeah.
I also liked Sully,
Yes,
the garbage man.
Yeah,
That was a very interesting character because that was the only that I can think of monster that was actually sort of a human,
yeah,
right? I mean, he looked like a person.
yeah.
And
He was the most human Muppet I can think of outside of the Dark Crystal.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're watching a lot of educational stuff, and it sounds like your parents were really not completely doing prohibition on TV, but kind of doing it the right way where you were kind of getting just enough.
It was something like that. 3-2-1 Contact.
Oh, yeah. Bloodhound Gang.
Yes, that was very good. And then Club Connect.
What was Club Connect? Was that a local show?
It may have been, and it may have actually even been from Canada because we got a lot of the public
CBC stuff.
programming from Canada, being so close to to Windsor, Ontario.
Were you watching like SCTV or anything like that from Canada?
I did see it, but I
Yeah.
didn't. That was
I love
too
that.
young to really understand
yeah.
it at the time. Of course, I enjoy it very, very much now. One last thing I wanted to point out because you had brought it up and then I forgot to finish the thought.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Was on Facts of Life. I will always have this memory. There was a time when my grandmother was visiting. My brother and I were watching Facts of Life, and my grandmother was not that old at this time, but like anyone, a bit out of the loop just on even how to interpret television.
Right.
And probably the whole phenomenon of these shows at that time seemed just...
You crazy kids
Yeah.
and your music. Yeah.
So we were watching Facts of Life, and it was a particular episode in which, and again, it was one of these more daring episodes that you almost can't imagine a show going into in any type of sitcom, where someone had a boyfriend who had introduced bongs.
Yes.
They
They bought them from Mrs. Garrett for her birthday.
They thought it was,
Yeah.
They said, I'm going to put jelly beans in mine.
Yeah.
And then one of the other girls, like Rudy, said, I'm going to drink root beer out of mine. And then said, I'm going to use mine for a vase or something.
Yeah.
And then it became evident later in the episode that it had something to do with drugs, and they were talking about that. And my grandmother happened to walk in right at that moment. And to her, of course, this was a show.
Some pro-drug show. Yeah.
Promoting this. And saying, you really shouldn't be watching this. And I think I tried to start explaining, but I realized I would have to explain almost perhaps 2 or 3 hours of context.
You need charts. Yeah. Because you were trying to explain a misunderstanding to someone misunderstanding something.
Right. And that was why do I have that memory?
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like, that's something I will always remember.
Well, because it's a specific moment where you had to interact with an adult, and was kind of a specific time when there was an age gap. It was like maybe the first time you were aware of an age gap, and where you kind of always, as a kid, no matter what you're watching, you always kind of feel like you're going to get in trouble somehow for watching it, like in a weird way where you're like, well, I don't know, I didn't pick. Am I going to get in trouble?
Guilty almost
all
too.
the time for like everything you're watching. Yeah, so I think all that stuff sticks with you more.
Sort of had the feeling of the first time you realize you could beat your mom or dad in a race if
Yeah.
you're running, and you question maybe I should hold back.
Yeah, I should throw this one. yeah. Throw this race and don't buy your grandma a bong for her birthday. That's what we learned.
Strange feelings.
These are the lessons we learned on 80s television.
But all good. Cozy. Overall, the feeling was cozy. Playing with blocks, building things, waiting for dinner to be called. Was not a stressful feeling. And I have good memories of all of it.
That's great. I mean, and again, I think very different because, families tended to watch TV together when we were growing up, and now people watch things in their closet on their phone on their own. And it's sort of, I wonder what the memories will be like in 20 years when the kids who were our age, the age we were then, think about stuff they watched and what their sort of cultural capital and the things that they sort of bond over. Because one of the great things I've learned about doing this show, to kind of wrap it up here, is that no matter who I've talked to from whatever walk of life or wherever they've grown up, we all kind of watch the same stuff. And so you go back far enough and we all have that shared experience to a degree, even though it's, different environments and different contexts, but you can relate to almost anyone with like, yeah, I watched Facts of Life.
It's a center.
Yeah.
Or maybe not a center like a bullseye and a target, but it's a gathering place.
Yeah, it's a shared experience in
That's
a weird
true.
way
That's
that
a
people
beautiful
don't
way to
have.
look at it.
So it's not just disposable. It does it is an interesting cultural phenomenon, I think, that
Nothing is disposable, even if it was intended to have been.
yeah.
It's everything has more weight to it because we bring that weight
Oh, absolutely.
to it ourselves.
I mean, that's one of the great things that I love about TV Guide is it was made to be thrown away, but ends up being the best example of a specific time and place that you can imagine, because it's not trying to be timeless, so it ends up being a perfect snapshot of a time, which is kind of fun to go look through.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Oh, baby, I see you in my teeny said, yeah, baby, I see you in my teeny said, I cut your head off and put it in my
There you go. I told you, it was great. Who would have thought he was so good at doing a Don Knotts impression? I certainly wouldn't have thought that. And Little House on the Prairie, fascinating. A very sweet show, aside from the episode with the sexual assault by a mime, which you can Google, and it's terrifying. But what a great guy. Really fascinating guy. Loved talking to Andrew. And I love talking to all my guests, but Andrew was particularly interesting. And as I said, if you're unfamiliar with him for some strange reason, definitely look him up, buy some of his records, and most importantly, see him live if you have the opportunity. It is a great show. We have a brand new episode of the show every single Wednesday, and without giving too much away, we'll have some additional episodes this month, maybe, as we go through the holiday season and end up the year here. I also want to mention that today, December 11th, my comedy EP comes out. It's called Pilot Season. You can buy it on Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, any of those stores. It's 30 minutes of comedy. It's only $3.99 on Bandcamp. I think it's $9.99 on iTunes because you can't do anything cheaper than that. But definitely check it out if it's a little different from the show. But if you like stand-up comedy, that is my comedy. And I'm very excited to announce that February 8th, I will be recording an all-new full-length album at the Nerd Melt showroom in Los Angeles on Sunset Boulevard. So you can look me up on icanread.com for all my stand-up comedy stuff, and you can email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or at ken@icanread.com. I am also on Twitter at KennethWRead. The show that you're listening to now is at TV Guidance, or you can go to our Facebook page, just like us, search TV Guidance Counselor, we're the only one, and check out our webpage, tvguidancecounselor.com. I always have bonus stuff and some fun stuff on there, and I appreciate you listening to the show. If you like the show, please rate and review it on iTunes. It is a huge help. And again, be here Wednesday. Next week is a big day for me. My guest is Dana Gould, who is one of my all-time favorite comedians. So we'll see you again next time on TV Guidance Counselor.
Think back to happy birthday, Pat Ajax. His tone is it's incredible. Do we really need a piece of metal in the middle of the sidewalk?
Right.
They spend $300,000 commissioning.